Welcome to For the Record, an unfiltered view on current trends and timeless advice for surviving in the aesthetics industry. Whether you're an injector, practice owner, sales rep, or marketer, it's time to set the record straight. Each week we cut through the chaos and showcase diverse perspectives and winning ideas from the best minds in the industry. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Hall, Chief Growth Officer at Aesthetic Record. Now, let's get started on this week's episode. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of For the Record Season 6. And we are back. We've been doing some vendor content. Now we're back to our provider content. And we have a special guest today who has been with Aesthetic Record for many years. We have watched her growth from opening her med spa as a solo entrepreneur to now blossoming into a legitimate CEO of a 2-location enterprise with lots of employees, doing all the CEO work and also an injector. And she's training her staff and really having to wear many hats. But she's doing it beautifully, and we are obsessed with her at AR, obsessed, #obsessed, because she has done an amazing job with events, really getting into the operating rhythm of her practice, working with our consulting group here at AR, and has just really embraced this idea of going from, I'm starting on my own, to I'm going to dominate my market and do a really, really great job of it. Has some cool things launching this summer, and it's just a joy to be around, by the way. I was at her lecture a few weeks ago at the Beautiphi event, but she is a CRNA, turned now to a nurse injector and doing a great job of it. So I'm thrilled today to welcome the founder of Behold You, Adrian Nowitzke. Adrian, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm super excited and love AR, and just this is such an honor. So thank you.
Well, as I mentioned before we started, my whole team is jealous that I'm here with you and they're not.
Aww.
They're like, is she coming here live? I'm like, well, guys, no, we're going to do it virtually, but we are obsessed with you, all of us. We talk about you all the time because I think that you really embody what we want for every practice at AR is to start wherever you are, meet you there, and then watch you really grow and develop into like a blossoming entrepreneur. I think you've done such a beautiful job of that. And you've kept your head about you the whole time. You've not done anything crazy, made any major mistakes. So I think your story is just really compelling. But I would love for our audience to get to know you, to find out more about why we love you so much here. So give us a little bit of a brief background about your rise to stardom here in the aesthetic world.
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, my name is Adrian Nowitzke. I'm the owner of Behold Aesthetics and Wellness Center in Effingham and Vandalia. And I started in October of 2020. One of my best friends from anesthesia school sent me a text message in August, and she is like, Kelly Hermans is starting a Beautiphi Academy for CRNAs, and I think we should go learn how to do Botox. So it kind of really just started from there. And I talked to my husband and I told him, I said, I really want to do this. I love women. I love empowering women, self-care. And so I said, I really think I want to do this. But it also was a super scary leap because I left practicing anesthesia full time for the aesthetic industry. And so I definitely can say that that leap of faith jump was terrifying. But I'm so grateful that I did that. So in October of 2020, I went to study aesthetics with Kelly. And there I definitely learned all of the basics. I came home super excited, ready to go. But home for me is Effingham, Illinois. It's a town of 12,500 people in the middle of nowhere. So I really felt, kind of alone, if you will, here. And so that having that community and that culture definitely, especially in the beginning, was amazing. And right away, I joined with Aesthetic Record. I knew that I needed to have a system that was going to be able to help me get going. And I just loved your platform of being able to work with your providers there at Aesthetic Record and say, okay, these are the skincares I'm going to offer. This is the services. And they actually built out my whole system for me. That was so good because I think so many people, especially when you start out in this industry, it starts as this idea of this is just going to be really fun and this is going to be exciting. And then you get into the nitty-gritty of the business and it is like drinking from a fire hydrant. Like you want to be the practitioner and you want to do everything, but you also have no idea how to run a business, or I didn't anyway. So I just know that Aesthetic Record literally was with me in March of 21. So 6 months after I started, training, and they've been with me every step of the way since. So that's kind of just a little bit about my story, but I just know encouraging other people, when you start, you've got to identify your strengths and weaknesses. And I think that is one piece of advice I can give to other people in the industry is know the things that you're really good at or the things that you really like to do, and then find those people who are the experts in their field and just build those relationships, develop those connections, and then let them help you. And I think that that was something that I really learned very early on, and I'm grateful for, because I think that that is part of our success, is that we were able to really use aesthetic record to its fullest capacity. And Bobby, with my strategic account, I've been working with her one-on-one. The girls with lead AR, with Sarah and Lexi, they've all just been helping us and helping my team. So not only were you guys teaching me what to do from a business aspect, but also my team. And I think that that is something else that I've tried really, really hard, is that I can't do everything. I don't have time to know how to do lead AR. Honestly, like, there's other things that I have to be doing, or that I'm the only person that can do, because I am the CEO of the business. So I've really allowed my staff to work one-on-one with everybody at Aesthetic Record, and to really grow and empower them to be the best that they can be. So I think that having an amazing team, I am surrounded by amazing women on my team, and I really want to be the leader of a team that we all are working to our highest potential. And I know that they are. Like, I really am for education and empowering the people on your team.
I would have to say that I made a flub on our intro, Adrian, because I've been on your website for 3 days stalking you like a crazy person, which the website is Behold You, but that is not the official name of the place, but it is the website. So, hey, newsflash, guys, if you want to check her out, you can go to the website right now and find out.
That's right.
But what you just mentioned about the delegation part, I was talking to Bobby actually this morning, or maybe it was last night, about, what really makes Adrian, what sets her apart, what are the things that, you'd mentioned on the podcast. She's like, the fact that she's now gone from being the person doing it all to now like raising a team of people who are taking over the jobs, delegating effectively, letting her team run with things and not getting overly involved in things that don't require her to be part of it, and focusing on the things that she needs to do, which is just what you said. I mean, it's obviously coming out even with our team interacting with you, that your team is now taking the mantle on things that don't need you to be there. And I think that's a hard lesson in the founder's journey, is at some point you have to delegate. And we don't want to let go control of anything. At least I don't, Adrian. And I oftentimes feel bad about not knowing as much as everybody else. Like, I don't know if you ever go through that with yourself, but when we have a system, like you mentioned lead AR, if I don't know the most about it, I have like a guilty conscience about that. Like, I should know this as your leader, but then I stop and think, wait a minute, think about all the things that I have to do that they know nothing about. I wouldn't punish them, make them learn all my things. Yeah. So there's some part where we have to split the load, but I think you've done it really effectively. You came from, like you mentioned, CRNA, going full on into aesthetics. So I want to kind of talk about that for a second, because what we see here, specifically here at AR all the time, is that people do what you mentioned. They're like moonlighters. They're a toe in the water, toe out of the water. When I hit some magical threshold, I'll go full time. When I hit some magical number, I'll do more days per week. There isn't a magic number. I think you have to jump in and go all in with, without the life vest on, and just give it a whirl. And you have really done that and invested in getting help and people to come coach you and work with you. And you did that like strategic planning in the beginning. But what was that journey like for you? Did you just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm done? Or did you have some kind of like a threshold in your mind of when you were going to say, no more hospital, I'm doing this full time?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And I know, like, just for my family, like when I came and talked to my family about what I was going to do, I mean, 99% of the time, anesthesia is an end game. Like, you don't go to anesthesia school, become a CRNA to like completely walk away from the profession. So like, I think like for me in particular, like it really was shocking to some of my friends and family. Like, what are you doing? So first of all, just getting over the initial shock of it. But the great thing is what I wanted as a mother, because my children were really small when I went to anesthesia school. So my daughter was 18 months and my son was 3. So I was gone a lot in the early years. So for me, one of my life goals was to be more present in those junior high and high school years when they're in all the activities and all the sports. So my anesthesia career just did not lend to that. So that was another driving factor. So I really thought in the beginning, I'm going to have the best of both worlds. I'm going to learn aesthetics and I'm going to practice aesthetics 2 days a week. And then I'm going to go just part-time, or like you said, moonlight PRN, and do anesthesia 2 days a week. So that got me out of the nights, weekends, holiday call. And I did have a more flexible schedule. But what I was finding is that people really trusted me in my community because I had taken care of them. I had put them asleep, or I had helped to deliver their babies, or, do the epidural. So I really had a strong connection with just people in our community. community of being a trusted healthcare provider. So at that time, the 2 days a week worked well in the beginning, and I do recommend that to people. I do recommend just plugging in, learning, and then seeing how your market is going to receive you. But I quickly grew to about 500 clients in like less than 18 months. So I knew at that point I either had to make a decision that I could grow no more in my aesthetic practice because most patients were having to wait 6 to 8 weeks to see me, or I could take that next leap of faith and really step back from anesthesia and open a larger practice and hire staff. So I feel like for me, I never set a goal. I'll be honest, I did not set a goal, and Bobby can tell you, I did not set many goals in the beginning with numbers because I was scared of them or I just didn't really know them. But as I grew, I knew quickly that I either had to get a team and I had to take another step back from anesthesia, or I just couldn't help anybody else. So at that time, that would have been in February of 22, I had a nurse reach out to me, and actually had met her at a gain training in St. Louis. And she was like, Adrian, I'm moving home. I would love to come and work for you. And I remember telling my husband, like, somebody wants to work for me. Like, what? So it was exciting, but also just kind of like, I'd never really processed that before. I'll be honest. I just hadn't really thought about it. And so growing quickly and gaining clients and then having someone like approach me about working for me, I'm like, okay, so let's see what this looks like. And that's really what started in February of 21 and 22, February of 22. So at that time, then I found a space in Effingham, and it had 3 treatment rooms, and I just had one. And I can remember my very first week there, the girl, I think people like to be a part of your process. So like the very first week we have one office, and then we had 3 treatment rooms, and my clients, I just had a little tiny room. I just rented a little room monthly and just saw patients out of that. But my first clients, they came to the big new space and it wasn't all done yet. So I literally had my desk and a chair all in the same room, and we were doing Botox, and it was just funny for them in the beginning to get to see it. But once we got the construction done and everything, I really at that time only practiced anesthesia twice a month, So I just made that decision that I had to be committed to becoming a CEO of my business if I wanted to be successful. So at that time, I also knew that I had to invest in my team and their education. And I value patient safety and I value patient education very, very high. And I knew exactly how I practiced. So everyone on my team had to have that same amount of training and education because my clients had to trust them just like that they trusted me. So I just treated the aesthetic world like my anesthesia world. And I wanted to do everything that I could to make sure that they were safe, they were well taken care of, they were receiving informed consent. We always get grouped into the hair salons and nails and all that kind of thing. And you're having medical procedures by medical providers. So I really wanted to create that distinction with who we are and what we stand for. And that catapulted me, I think, into just providing a place that patients knew if they came, whoever was taking care of them was highly educated and trained.
Well, and you mentioned, you're kind of in a more remote area compared to some of our other aesthetic friends, but I think the risk is the same. It's different, but equally as much, because if you mess up one thing in a community that small, your host. Everybody talks. I'm from one of those communities, Adrian. I know they all talk to each other, and then all of a sudden it becomes, it's the Sunday brunch conversation or the Thursday tea. There's a big risk there that you can't take. There can be no opportunity for you to not be great because the word travels so fast. But it's like in a big city, you have to be great because the competition is so incredibly fierce. Like there is no choice. But what I think is so interesting about your model, and I actually referenced you. I gave a lecture last Friday about the world in aesthetics and how it's changing. And I mentioned that events are still a huge part, but your community is a huge part. People think about events like an open house, but they don't think about an event as a community outreach. I think you do such a great job to be in your area, like in the community, talking about things that happen in the community and really being sort of like a town herald. In addition to being a great practitioner, you're also sort of the town, you're part of like the mouthpiece of what's happening in the world of your city. So give us an idea of like how that came to be, because you've got to pick your lane right in the beginning. You've got to pick your marketing strategy, your branding strategy.
And some folks are like, I'll just do ads. I'll do SEO, I'll do ads, I'll do, forms online. You're like, no, 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 no. We're going to do a human touch, very involved. So how did you get to that decision, and how do you think that's played out? I know it's been very successful, but played out over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah. So I think at first for me, like I'm very much about just genuine, authentic, natural connections with people. I want to be a genuine and authentic person. And I know that for me, word of mouth and referrals are the number one way that my business has grown. So I saw that quickly when I just practiced by myself that, if Susie came to have her Botox and loved it, she went home and told her mom and her sister, and then they came to me too. So that is definitely how our community works. And I think this industry just works like that in general. So just being a good provider, developing those great relationships and connections. And then I just wanted my marketing to reflect that. So I just did not pay for any marketing up front. We just have grown organically. We do run a couple of Facebook ads here and there now, but that's almost 5 years later. So I just made a decision that I just wanted all of our growth and all of our marketing to be organic. And so plugging into the community, I joined a local business group that meets on Thursday mornings, and I have loved the relationships that I have built. And I also was surrounding myself with other business owners in my own community, and I'm learning from them too. I'm a sponge. I love to learn. And I just think that always putting yourself in situations where you can learn from other like-minded people and grow. And that's led to a lot of referrals, but it's also just led to great friendships and great connections. Like our community, our downtown business group is doing a movie night this weekend, and we're just a part of the host. I'm going to volunteer and work concessions and just help our downtown business group thrive as a whole. And we're, the Little Rascals is going to be playing on the courthouse lawn. So there's lots of different opportunities and different ways to plug in. It's just, I think, starting with those authentic connections and just being someone that people just value your opinion. They value the things that you're offering to your community. When we do our big events, I always donate a proceed of the charities back to a local non-for-profit organization. That's just something that's been on my heart. That's just the type of person I am. So it has worked well for me, but I think that it's more important for me to just be a member of the community that gives back. All of the post proms, they want to come and, get the little facials and stuff like that. And we always donate to that. And I would say like a tip, if you have a new provider that's in your practice, we've had some new estheticians. So sometimes when we donate services or things like that, we'll make sure it's with the new girl. So that way she can get some more business on her books, but also still feel like we can give back at a reasonable price for the cause. So I hope that answered the question.
For sure. And I think your events, you think about your big events, you do a beautiful job of getting them all together early, and you're leaning into that. I think really impactfully. I don't want to talk about that, but for one thing, I did want to say about your community. One thing I think you do really well as well is that you actually educate. A lot of your events are very education focused, and I think if we look at the patient base today across the aesthetic industry, we believe that she's much more educated than she was 5 years ago. We think that she knows all about filler and toxin and the differences about stimulators and lasers. In many cases, that's not true, right? The ones who know the most are in the practice kind of barking are the ones we listen to, so we think everyone's like that. I think patients in general probably are not, especially in more rural areas because they're not so inundated with it all day long. They know probably less about how everything works. I think you're also doing a great service that probably pays dividends for you because the consult, they already know what they're getting when they come in because you've already educated them. So you have all these awesome like little micro events that are education based. So there's a luncheon on your Instagram, I think at some point you've done this week or doing soon. Give us an idea of how that works as far as like the practice workload, because I think people look at events and say, oh my God, Adrian, I don't have the time for the event. I got to get the catering and I got to get the invitations. And it's just so much work. And I think to myself, well, you paid for ads that didn't really give you much of a result. What would you rather do, right? But how does it work for you guys when you think about, I want to do a luncheon? What is that workflow to get everything together?
Yeah. So great example is next week we're having a luncheon. Don't neglect the neck. We are partnering with our MERS rep, and we're doing the new gold protocol. So we're combining Radiesse, Bellatero, and Xeomin. We did the MAC training for that back in April. And I just remember telling the girls, I'm like, this is amazing. Like our models results were fantastic. And I said, so many people come and ask us for help with the neck. We've been doing other things, but I just was like, wow. So in the summertime, our lasers are not on as much. So I said, let's make sure that we do injectable events in the summer. So next week on Tuesday from noon to 1, anyone in the public can come to Behold, and we're just going to sit down. Our rep is coming. She's running through a slideshow. And then two of my nurses have just pulled some of our before and afters from the training that we did. And then also just some other before and afters from Radius Next. And just to show them, the results and how simple or easy it can be to make some radical changes. Light bites, the reps are great. We're just doing box lunches from McAllister's. So anytime we do a lunchtime event, we always just do some kind of food that they can just take with them. They can either sit there and eat it, or they can just take it, water, some tea. We will have, an alcoholic drink available if they want to have it, but it's always things that are very quick and easy. It's never anything extravagant. And then, obviously we do a little giveaway. Your reps are always usually great to help with that. So we're just giving away a Neo Firm neck and some Xeomin with it. And then we make it fun. So we are known for our events, like what we wear, what's the theme. So for this one, if they wear pink, they get an entry into the giveaway. If they RSVP, they get an entry into the giveaway. If they come, they get an entry into the giveaway. If they bring a friend. So we just always try to give them extra ways to win. And then of course, just offering that education piece. So we would like to sell some promotions, obviously, at our event, but if someone's been thinking about their neck or that's been an area of concern, I want them to know that they could come to the office in a smaller setting for 1 hour and they could learn about it and then they could ask questions. That is one thing our reps have always complimented us on, is that the people that are at our events are engaged and they're asking questions and that they want to learn. They're not just there for the free stuff. So then what we've even gotten better about is using Lead AR to tag the patients that are already in our clinic that have bought a neck cream, that have had a Radiesse treatment, anything that we've done to the neck and deck, we tag those patients and then we create just a little tiny text blast to send out to them and say, hey, we're having an educational event. We would love for you to come. And then Amanda, she's been doing amazing working with the girls. She now has figured out some of the automations. So, reply neck, and then we would give out the rest of the details, so it's trying to capture the audiences in a smaller portion. So if we get 10 or 12 ladies that come, 90% of the time, we usually have 80 to 90% close rates on the packages. But if someone doesn't buy, they're never pressured. I want people to come to us for education. I want them to come to learn. When they're ready, if they need something, we've built that relationship and that trust. Then most of the time, when it works for them, then they would go ahead and come in and have a service.
Well, and I think being very focused is such a brilliant point, because if you do a shotgun approach and you send, 10,000 folks a text message, it doesn't resonate with everybody. And you've wasted, first of all, the money of sending the text message.
Yeah.
But you can't be as strategic. I think there's a part of it where I feel like that I've had Radiesse, or I've had a neck concern in the past. And it feels like it's targeting me. Like your girlfriend's telling you, hey, you got to get this, you got to go to this event. You got to check it out. The SMS, I can't overemphasize how important I think text messages are right now. I just think they're so personal. They feel personal, as long as you don't make them sound salesy. But it feels like it's a relationship. I think much more than an email doesn't feel like that. I think a text feels like, hey, I know you, you know me, I've got your phone number, we're going to text each other. And I think you can overindulge in the messaging because the audience is ripe for what you're offering. It doesn't have to be some blanket generic thing that you're sending out. But the tagging, oh my gosh, Adrian, the tagging is we tag things here even for our clients all the time. It makes life so much easier to know where people are in the process. And I think to what you mentioned in the beginning, I don't want to do everything, or I can't do everything. Those are things like automations that, man, I don't have the time to go in there and tag people. You don't either. To have it something to do things automatically in any part of the business for me makes us far more efficient, better. Then it's not so draining to have to do the event. We know who we're going to invite. We know what they're going to want. But the close rate in a small group setting, I think, is always great. And also, if they don't buy today, maybe they'll tell their friend, hey, you mentioned you had a neck issue. I just went to this thing. They might be able to help you, call that practice. I think there's just like a halo effect too. Or they may buy in 6 months or, 3 months. So I think it's just such a great investment of time. And I think what you mentioned about a box lunch, brilliant. It's like, dine and dash. And that the reps are involved and the reps are excited about it and people are engaged. I used to do open houses when I was a sales rep, and it was like the Botox, I don't know, like a round robin. You'd see the same person at 15 open houses all season long, trying to get the best deal. weren't engaged anywhere, didn't care about anybody anywhere. They were just trying to get the best discounts in all the places. That's not the patient that you want. You're right, in a long-term relationship kind of practice. So I think this like very micro-focused event is brilliant and way less stress for your practice than doing the big things. But you do have a big thing coming up. You got your giant event coming up, not too far away from here. That's a big one that you do have to plan far in advance. So tell us how that works, because I think you guys go all out. You have a party planner that gets involved. Like, you go to the mattresses with this. So give us an idea of how that event works.
Yeah, so we just host an annual Beyond Beauty celebration. The very first year that when we opened June 1st of 2022. And I just told the girls, I said, I know I want to do like a grand opening kind of thing, but I want to do it in September when everybody's back to school and we're settled in our new space. So September is just when we had our very first open house, and we've just continued that. It works well. And in the beginning, it wasn't as glorious or as organized as it is now, but we've learned because we do it over and over and over again. And I think being a business owner, you just always have to be open to constructive criticism, like whether it's from a client, whether it's from a rep, whether it's from people on your team. I will tell you, anesthesia prepared me for that. Like going through 3 years of anesthesia school and just having someone literally constantly telling you what you're not doing right, it just made me, because I am tenderhearted and I wear my heart on my sleeve. When it comes to my business though, I want that feedback. I want to know, what did you like? What did you not like? Did this work? Did this not work? So I think just trying to like remove some of the emotion when you're trying to plan these events, or if you did something and it didn't work at all, it's okay. You're learning. I had some advice from one of my business coaches, Teresa McCloy. The very first year I started working with her, she said, Adrian, you're brand new. This is new for you. This is newer for our community. Try everything. We did a billboard. I'll never do one again, but I just thought that was something on my box I had to check off. Now I look at all the money I spent on that. I'm like, why did I do that? But it was one of those things, you think you need your name up there, your pictures or whatever. And it was cute. Little kids, they would see me and they'd be like, I saw your picture. So in a little small community, it is fun. But planning that grand event, we start 6 to 8 months in advance, and we just learned that ahead of time. Our reps are busy. I don't live by my reps. So my reps are St. Louis or Chicago. I'm 90 minutes from St. Louis and 4 hours from Chicago. So I know I need to be conscientious of their time. Like, I've got to get on their books so that they can make the trip to come and see me. And most of them have to spend the night, when they come. They don't have to, but a lot of them do. So we just start really early. And then we contact all of them. We have a spreadsheet that we use, and it literally, we invite all of them, and then we just start. Are you coming or not coming? What giveaway would you like to do? We start with some packages, and then they all have their own little tables. And our annual event, our first one, I think we had over 400 people. And we hosted it inside, and I have a pretty like narrow, long space. And I mean, it was like packed. So the next year, okay, how can we fix the congestion? We rented a tent and put a tent up outside, and we got a food truck, and that was really fun, and just keeping track, how much each rep would be able to give you, just actually like having a spreadsheet. So, like what the event is costing you. And then the theme, of course, every year, we do a theme. With our big events, I stay on brand. We're blush and navy cream. So with our big events, I'm always true to that. Or this year is going to be gold and white, but and then we always, of course, we want our people to dress up and they want to know what we're wearing. And then scheduling your photos, that's something else. That like getting your professional photographer, whoever you work with, you should work with the same one. First of all, that's a business tip, because that cohesive branding really makes a difference. I'm pulling photos that were professionally taken 4 years ago, and I'm using them still, and they're relevant and they look classy and nice. So that's a good tip. But on the days of events, everybody's all dressed up and everybody looks nice. Block out time, 6 months in advance to do an hour or 2 hours worth of photos. We've gotten smarter too, just taking photos for that next event, so then we can use it in marketing. That has definitely helped. And then just making it fun. We've had a DJ before. This year we're having a super fun like VIP after party. So we have, about 160 members in our practice. So we're going to be doing a really fun like VIP after party for our members. So just trying to make them feel extra special. And we're going to be doing it at like a really fun like speakeasy bar just across the street. So Always trying to keep it fresh, but the flow is kind of the same. We have a map, we actually like make a map of who's there. And then I also invite some community, other businesses in the community to like have a table. And we've kind of rotated those. We've done permanent jewelry. We've done a flower truck. We've done nutrition. I have a registered dietitian that we work with. So just trying to also include other members of our community to give them exposure. But they're people that we work with, and they're people that our clients, it's like-minded things, I think. But yeah, we have to plan in advance for something that big, that scale. But honestly, if you're organized and you are able to just kind of keep fine tuning and replicating it year after year, it really works. And using an event coordinator definitely helps.
Yes. Think about it next. Yes. Get all the coordinators. But I think you can tell your patients to save the date. Like, the date 6-8 months in advance. They can go ahead and put it on their calendar. Then you can mark it and build the hype up all the way through until the end.
Yeah.
Versus if I decide to do it today and it's in September, I don't have a lot of runway there, right? I don't have a lot of runway to get people excited and sort of jazzed about it.
Yeah.
But the community people coming in too, they have an audience also. And so, if they're posting on their social media, come see us at Behold's annual event, we'll be there. Then you get their outreach as well, which could be that patient who you would have never been able to touch on your own just through organic search or whatever else that now knows who you are. I think there's this brilliant sort of affiliate marketing that kind of occurs there where people come into the practice that maybe wouldn't have otherwise seen you. But the food truck is awesome. I think that's super fun. And to outgrow the event and have to sort of expand outside is really cool. Mm-hmm. But it means people are coming back too. I think the fact they come back every year means that they got value from it, right? They were able to get what they wanted, get the packages, see what you're doing, what you're adding to practice. People have events all the time that the first one's great and the second one's like the sophomore slump and no one shows up. And I think they get disheartened about it. They kind of feel like, well, it didn't work the second time, so not going to do it again. But just like you said, you got to stick it out and you got to try everything a few times. But have you ever had one where you're like, that did not work out, and the lesson I learned was X? Give me an idea of any of those bad things that you're like, oh, if I could do it again, I would not have done that thing.
Yeah, and I think for some of us, like one of our events that we just actually recently wanted to host was a summer acne boot camp. I've got kids, we have face reality, and I was talking to some of my nurses in the practice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the kids are out for summer. Let's do a summer acne boot camp where these kids, their parents can drop them off. They can come to Behold 12 and up for an hour, and then they can actually see us 3 times. So we made it like a once every month for 3 months, and we were going to take their photos. They got like a little skincare starter kit. No one had any interest in that at all. Do I think it was a great idea? Did we market it appropriately? Absolutely. I mean, I feel like we did, but something was missing there, So what I am taking from that as the leader of my organization is maybe people are really busy, and committing to coming 3 times, once every month for the next 3 months wasn't smart. It might just not work for our network. I will say a lot of the people that were interested were just like, we're on vacation or we're playing travel sports. A lot of them just joined like our normal acne boot camp and started coming just as patients, but that was an event. We didn't have a single person. And it feels disheartening, but now being where I am in my journey of being a leader, I just take them as lessons to just be like, okay, we're not going to do that again. And that's fine, but let's figure out another way that we maybe can capture that same audience. And I think it just was a time commitment.
Yeah. And summer's so hard. I mean, it really is. Obviously we all know the June, July slump that everyone goes through in the summer. I think it's just a hard time. But what I loved about that event, whether it was successful or not, was that it gave someone else in the practice, like the headliner role. I think you have an esthetician who kind of leads that. It allows you to resource other people to be the one kind of carrying the burden of making the event, the actual execution of it, when they come into the practice and get all their consults and things. And it isn't always about you having to do it, or the nurse injector who's already got a full schedule having to come away for the day to go do something. It sort of, it takes the burden of the event and sort of spreads it out. And I think there's a part of that in a practice where it can be exhausting. If you do a lot of events and it's the same people doing it every single time and being responsible for it, it's an exhausting place to be. I feel that here all the time, where now it's the esthetician leading it, or it's an injector doing a specific kind of treatment that only they're going to do. I think there's a really cool part of that where everyone gets to kind of be a headliner and gets to be important.
Yeah.
And then you can spread the revenue out too and diversify what you're offering.
Yes.
And it's not so focused on just one thing. So as you think about like your practice, you have what, 2 nurse injectors or more than that, and a couple estheticians. How does like the day-to-day flow with patient load even work? I mean, is it mixture of esthetician services and injectables 50-50, or what's your like general makeup of your patients?
Yeah. So we have 3 treatment rooms. So we can only have 3 providers, at a time. So there's always at least 1 nurse provider. There's, I believe, 4 days a month that we have 2 nurses. So that's it, but usually just 1 nurse. And then we have a combination of then either 2 licensed estheticians or a licensed esthetician and massage therapist. So the rooms, we definitely have maximized like the rooms. Some of the girls kind of leave, they'll leave early or whatever. And then I ask my team, like, these are the hours we're open. These are the amount of rooms that we have. When would you like to be here? And I will tell you, like, as a nurse, when I was an ICU nurse before I went to anesthesia, we had self-scheduling. I knew the number of hours I needed to work, but when I got to make that decision of when I was going to be there, it just completely radically changed it. So that's just how I kind of approach it now. So it has worked really well. Sometimes we've got some girls that leave, 2 or 3 hours before we close, and there's an esthetician. She's like, I want some evening appointments. So she'll come in and pick up that room and work for another 2 or 3 hours at the end of the day. So it has worked really well. And we do have another clinic that's about 35 miles away. So there are days where our Effingham clinic is completely full. And then we do have 2 more providers at our Vandalia clinic. We're not open 5 days a week at our second location yet, but we just continue to keep growing. And as we grow, we just add another day a week there. And it's worked out really well.
Well, how does that work? Because obviously you had to learn to be an employer. As you mentioned in the beginning, you had to hire people, and now you're the boss. But now you're the boss in 2 places, and you're duplicating the effort. What has that part been like? I think even with self-scheduling, it sounds like a genius idea, and I love it. But what happens when no one picks up the hours? Like, no one wants a Monday morning. That's the crappy time, right? Nobody wants that. Do they have to just sort of force into those places because the hours just work out, where they have to get that many hours? Or how do you make sure police that, and also across 2 locations? Like, I'm thinking about all the math, Adrian. You've got a lot to do there. So give us some ideas of how that works.
Yeah, so I will say that we just really haven't had any struggle yet to fill any of the time. And there are girls, who start with me and they are only part-time, so there's some girls, I only have 18 hours of room time available. If you would like to come and work, that is what I can offer you. And I'm very upfront with that. They want to be on my team and they want to work for me. And I'm grateful for that. I never envisioned that. Like, I get resumes all the time. And so I get to be choosy about who is on my team. And I know that the work that we put in to build an amazing team, it is paying off full-fold, because people want to be a part of our culture. And that's magical in itself. But every once in a while, we have a little snap and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how are we going to make this work? But I mean, using Aesthetic Record, when you look at the calendar for the whole clinic, like, you can just see everything, and we use out of offices to block everything out, and it really has worked. But I also have an amazing practice manager. So I did not have a practice manager. When did I start with a practice manager? This January was a full year. So I've had a practice manager for 1.5 years. And I will say that growing that role has allowed me to step back more and more, and just be more of like the dreamer and the visionary and kind of the planner of things. So having a practice manager, she definitely keeps our schedules, and they submit their vacation requests and all those things. So we just really thrive on having open communication and communication in advance if you need a day off or things like that. And, one of our newer girls, I was looking at the summer and I was like, hey, Anna and Brittany are on vacation. They're my nurses. I was like, would you want to pick up some Fridays? Absolutely. And she's wanting more hours. So far it's worked out really well.
I love that. I think people will buy into a thing that they create on their own. So it's like, if it's my schedule, like me for the ICU, my schedule, then I'm happy to be there on those days because I chose those days. But
Yes.
I love the practice manager part that you mentioned, because I feel like people do that last. So when I get to a certain size, I'll get the manager, and probably even for you, because you waited a little bit, and then you get the manager, like, holy crap, I could have been doing so much more, so much earlier had I just gotten the help. But it's an investment, and they're not revenue producing, so it's hard to justify in some cases. But for you as a CEO, and also you're an operator, but you're also a practitioner, right? You're probably doing both, I'm sure, wearing all the hats.
Yep.
what was that transition like to give away the power? I hate to use that word, but it is giving away the power to make the decisions and to act as your proxy without you having to be involved. Because that to me is the hardest part, is saying, I trust this person enough now to be me, and I'm going to step back and know that it's getting done really well. Even if they're a rock star. I mean, no, even if they're amazing, it's still, there's a part of it that's just so hard.
Yeah. Absolutely. I knew that I needed one, and I knew that we were growing and expanding. So I knew that I needed someone to help me. And I will be very honest, working with Bobby from Aesthetic Record, because she was a practice manager for 5 years, she gave me so much insight into like what she did. You know, she taught me when I worked with her what to be looking for the KPIs and all of the numbers and all of the things. So I got to learn from her how to be a practice manager and how to be a business owner and how to be an injector. And then when we finally got to that point, you know, I knew that I could count on working with her to train a practice manager. So I'll be honest, you know, here in Effingham, Illinois, there is not a practice manager of a medical spa just sitting around waiting for a job. Like that is not a thing. It's just not a thing because we're in such a rural area. But I was able to find someone that had amazing communication skills, customer service, smart. She was actually in an accounting background, so she knew all of the numbers, and that is a weakness of mine. So I do not like the numbers, and I do not want to mess with them. So she was the perfect fit, you know, and Bobby worked with her. So I met with Bobby once a month, and Christina, my practice manager, met with Bobby once a month, and she really mentored her into the role. And I was also able to help answer questions because I had been mentored by Bobby. But giving away the power, it definitely is difficult at first because I am particular and I do want things done a certain way. And I hold myself to a really high standard, and I hold everyone on my team to a really high standard. So the bar of excellence is high at Behold with anything that we do. And so the person that I found, just she met that, and she came into that role knowing that she had a lot to learn and I had a lot to learn. And I gave her, you know, I also extended grace where grace was due. I need it in my life, and I give it to my team, you know, to grow them. But when I'm able to go to my kids' ball games, or take a vacation, and I haven't done that in a while, that was something that I knew giving away the power gave me back a life with my family. So for me, that was always just how I kept it in my head. And I knew that even though some things might not be perfect at first, that we would just continue to grow together, and it would end up where we both could be happy. And I loved getting to see her grow and in her role, and how much she developed as a leader of a team, which was really amazing. So I'm super proud of her and taking on that challenge.
I think as you get more comfortable with somebody, you also realize things aren't really that important. Like there's things now that 5 years ago I'd have been like, oh my gosh, I'd have been freaking out. I would have been in your business trying to figure out what's going on. Like, let me take it over. And now I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, that's not such a big deal. I think you get more, just like with coaching, as you mentioned, like with the anesthesia, the coaching and the feedback being so instant and getting okay with, you know, the criticism or the constructive feedback, I would say. I think it's very similar here. It's like at some point you realize that maybe the fact that the logo is off by a half a centimeter is not that big of a deal, where I would be freaking out about that, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, building a brand. I think also things become less important because they're not as critical in that moment for you and your practice growth, where they would have been, you know, like getting your name wrong in the opening would have been a huge deal. But now everyone knows who you are. It's no big deal. I just had the website, guys. Don't come for me. But I think you do have to relinquish that control and remember the benefits. I love that you said your family being with them made it worth it, because sometimes you forget why you've done all this. Hello, me. And you also forget why you're not there, because you're like, I should be in the practice. I should be there. I should be the one making those decisions. It's like, wait a minute, but I'm at Little League, or I'm at a hockey game, or I'm getting to do, you know, the school play. I think there's a part of it where we're still all human. We forget that because we become like business machines and robots, that there's a human side of this business, especially because we employ women. I'm sure you're very female dominated. We are here as well. We have children, we have families, we're nurses, sisters, aunts, cousins, teachers, all the things that we are. And there has to be part of it, I think, that connects the practice back to that there's a human element in it. And I think you said your culture is a big part of that. I'm curious, like, even your culture part of it, like how you bring that into your employment and how you hire and you retain and you get people really excited about working at Behold. What does the culture part look like? Because I think that is where We sometimes forget that, again, the human element, because we're so focused on like making the business work. So give us some culture, some hot tips on getting a culture rooted into our practice.
Yeah. I just knew that I wanted to create a culture for the working mom. I mean, that's who I was. That was where I was at in my life. So, I just took some of the things that I had experienced in my healthcare career. I've been in healthcare since I was 17. I just took things that I had experienced and I wanted to do them differently. So first of all, I think just really trying to make sure that it's a positive work environment. Like when the girls come in, hey, how's it going? Just taking a moment or two to connect with them. How was your weekend? What are you guys up to? I don't need to spend 15 minutes rehashing everything, because everybody's got stuff to do, but making sure you're connecting with your staff. The culture also is that every single person that walks in our door, I don't care who you are, where you're from, how much money you make, what you do. I don't care about any of that. You're welcome at my business. And there is something that I know that we can help you, because all of us at the end of the day are just here to help boost people's confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, if you go back to your why has to do with helping someone else. And so that is just a huge part of our culture, is that we are going to help people feel naturally refreshed and confident in their best self, whatever that is, however old they are, it doesn't matter. And that is just something over time, when people walk in the door, we try to greet them by their first name, hey, how's it going, Mary, or whatever, just making them feel welcome. I know that also just the culture, it starts with your staff. So like when my girls are in the break room, we're all talking about what's going on or whatever. And then if somebody leaves, we're not talking about them. Do not, as a boss, do not tolerate that in your business, because your clients will feel that. And I know that clients that we have attained from other places always say that, like, we can just tell you guys like each other, you get along, you're laughing, you're having fun. There's a healthy balance of that. We all get to work, we all do our work, but when someone leaves the room, we're not talking behind their back. There is no drama. And I'll tell you, like, I usually interview someone 3 times before they get to be a part of my business. And I do the very first interview and I tell them there's 2 things that I will fire you immediately or are grounds for termination. Drama is one, and breaking HIPAA is number 2. So I just set that tone real quick that it's just not tolerated in our workplace at all. This industry can be known for that. And as a healthcare provider, that was really, really, really hard for me, because in anesthesia, it's not competitive. It's not cutthroat. You might have somebody you don't get along with or something like that, but it's very different. So I will say my first 2 years in the industry, like, I experienced some of that, where not everybody is celebrating you and not everybody is cheering you on. And I am a community over competition type of person, but that is not the case in this industry with everyone, unfortunately. So our girls know too that we celebrate other people. We celebrate their wins, even if they do the same thing as us, and that is just felt. It's felt by my team and it's felt by my community.
Well, and I think when you have an adverse event or an issue or problem, you need that person down the street to help you. Who has enough holidays in their practice? Nobody. Or a patient is like, listen, I've got this one weird thing. I can't, you can't figure out how to fix it. Maybe they know how to do it. Maybe they have a good idea for you. I just think you should look at your competition as a resource. They become part of your healthcare team, if you will. It's like hospitals going back and forth. Like, you confer with another provider somewhere else that's done this before. I think in any other place in medicine, we do that all the time. We talk to someone else who's done it, who may be an expert in the area. We get their advice, their thoughts. Hey, look at this case I'm working on. Here we're like, don't come near me. It is sort of this, I don't know, this scary sort of competition thing. Yeah. But I want to take that back to Beautiphi, because watching you come full circle, you came into Beautiphi when you were just getting started. And I think Kelly has created a community there that is very focused on helping each other. I mean, you guys are all so close knit. You share information, you share best practices. Then to watch you now in the most recent summit, you're on the stage now as this, the expert, the icon, saying, I've done all the things and now I'm helping you to figure out how to do it in your business. Really a full circle moment. We were all like in the back tearing, we were all like having a tear shed, a crying moment for you, cheering you on. I videoed your entire lecture on my phone, because it was really cool to see somebody embrace what Kelly really believed in, and then you also believe in it, and then give back. So the community part of that, I want to talk about how that helps you to grow, because people need a tribe. They need to find their group and they try to do it on their own, Adrian, and they can't. There's not enough resources on your own. You just can't do it. So how did you really dive into the Beautiphi group, and what advice would you give somebody who's looking for a place to land to get that kind of nourishment from their community?
Yeah, I definitely valued that. I mean, that was one of Kelly's core values. She made it very evident, like at your first training. I trained in October of 2020. And so I was one of her first OGs, as we call ourselves. But she made it very clear then that she was going to be available. She wanted to make sure no matter where we lived in the United States, that we could reach out to her. And I did. I mean, very early on, I had a scary situation where I thought I had a vascular occlusion. And I can remember on a Sunday morning sending her a picture. And I was terrified, right? Because I lived in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have any local resources or any local community to help me. And she was there for me, in the beginning of that stage. And the other thing is when I trained there, I developed relationships and bonds with the other girls that were in my cohort. And we still talk and we still have text groups and we still lift each other up. And there are other CRNAs or other providers that now, there wasn't anyone in Illinois, downstate Illinois, when I went, but now there's girls that are within about an hour of me and they come to my practice. I want them to come. I want them to tour it. I want them to see. If they run out of something, they can borrow from me. That is just that's who I am. And that is who Kelly wants us to be. And it has served us so well, I think, because we just know that we can rely on each other, even if we're in the same town. We can work together. And I tell everybody all the time, if even in Effingham, tiny little Effingham is 12,500, even if every single person wanted Botox, I can't help them all. I only have 3 rooms. I can't help them all. So just keeping that in your mind that like your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And Kelly has just done such a great job of making sure that is that community over competition. And you felt it at training, and I'm feeling it 5 years later, almost 5 years later. Like she's still there. She is still a resource. And so are all the other girls, and we're all at different phases or stages of our business, but we still like throw out like, what are you doing about that? Or where are you ordering that from? Or, just asking questions. The events, I've definitely helped some of them one-on-one, just kind of get some of their event things rolling. And we all are kind of experts at, certain things in the industry. And we share all the time, like, what promotion did you do? How did that work? And I can just tell you that has been one of the biggest blessings in anyone that is new in the industry or would like to go back for advanced training, to be a part of that community. It is authentic and it is real. And everyone is there just to support and cheer you on.
Well, over here we love some Beautiphi, because I think Kelly's out there doing the Lord's work. I mean, all the training that you guys have, you're so well trained. When she gets a device, she vets it, she tries it, she tests it, she works with the manufacturer to make sure that before she tells you, hey, Adrian, here's this great device, that she knows it's going to work. I think there's a part of it where you guys are all now vetting, you're vetting treatments together. You're deciding if it works, if it doesn't work. You're finding out best practices to sell it, to, what's the protocol? How long should we wait? What does an adverse event look like? The amount of things that you guys can do so quickly as a business person who's worked in corporate America, it's like you're a corporation. You're looking at the injectable thing, whatever it is, or the device, as a team would, and saying, you go do this part, I'll do this part, and we'll come back and have a collective body of, of knowledge that we can all move fast. You're all moving and growing at such a crazy rapid rate because you get this dissemination of information so fast, and you're able to make a decision, and you have data behind it because you've got 500 other girls who tried it as well in their practices, and they know if it did or didn't work. So I just think the model that she's built, because all of you are so engaged, that's the key to it though, is that all of you are so engaged. If you weren't all so engaged, it wouldn't work. But you guys are also eager to learn and grow and build better practices, that it does work. So that there's some magic there that we discuss it here all the time, that for all of Kelly's brilliance, it's all of you who are working so hard to be awesome that makes the whole thing kind of ping pong back and forth. And it's just such a cool thing to watch. But I want to end our podcast with your marketing, because I think despite being a great business owner and being a great injector or laser or whatever else you're doing, marketing is a whole different animal. It's a whole different mind game. And your website, first of all, is beautiful. I love your call to action. You've got cherry on top. You've got, booking your consult, getting in the patient portal. Your website is just really well done. The imagery is beautiful. You mentioned your professional photography. It just looks so great. Your Instagram is really, really well done. It's very consistent. It looks really nice and uniform. How are you doing all of that? Do you have that hired out? Are you part of that content decision? Because marketing in a small town is also very, very important. How do you make your marketing just look so great with all the things you have going on?
Well, I have help.
That's the key.
So, yes, I have a team of 3 girls that do my marketing. So, Monica Woodward does my website design, and she does some of our e-blasts and some of our flyers and like the back of the door flyer holders. Michelle Hanley is in charge of like my Google, my SEO, and that's just something in the last year that I've paid attention to. So I didn't really even have anyone for that until a year ago. And then Michaela is our social media girl. We do a monthly marketing meeting. It's just a Zoom. You know, if somebody's in town, they can drop by the office, but if they are not, it's fine. We do, it's the second Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. We hop on and we talk about what we're going to be doing, what is coming up, what are the focuses. And we try to cover 3 months out, you know. So I just had mine last week with the girls. So we talked about June, July, August, and September with our annual event coming up. I've been very diligent about that being a reoccurring meeting, and that has definitely made a significant impact. The people that do my marketing, they are brilliant and talented on their own, and I did not have to foster their creativeness or how well they do anything. They are amazing, and it's beautiful. I just sit in the seat on the bus of more of the visionary person or the planner, and it's actually something that's fun for me. So I know that that is something that I was learning about my strengths and weaknesses. You know, Bobby will be the first person to tell you that I hate all the numbers, but I'm learning to love them and I want to know them more because I understand them now. But the marketing and the planning and the dreaming and the events, that's just naturally, it's who I am. It's what I love to do. So for me, that's actually like a fun and creative part of the business that I love using Chat GPT to be like, help me name this promotion, or this is what I'm thinking about, you know, to just get the ideas flowing. And then we kind of just like run it, you know, but throw it around and we all just kind of come up with some things. And I would say those meetings are 45 minutes, but just being very strategic about them and making them important. And then we have a little Excel, we do have an Excel spread document that we do, and it's just every single month of the year. And it kind of just has, and Bobby actually helped me with this way back in the day before I got started. We just put, you know, January lasers, February injectables, you know, microneedling, very, very broad topics for whatever we wanted to cover. And then I kind of break them down into like nurse, licensed esthetician, massage therapist. We don't always focus on all 3 in the month. Sometimes it's a little too much, but like June is Acne Awareness Month. So obviously, you know, we're just talking about lots of acne, but it's just looking ahead. And then the fun thing is, or like if you take the time to do it, then you kind of just tweak it year after year. You know, I'm always going to celebrate Acne Awareness Month in the month of June. I'm always going to celebrate Skincare Awareness Month in the month of May. Like those focuses will never change. You might just change something, you know, different that you do for it. But I think giving yourself the time as the CEO, calendar blocking the time out. You know, you need to block time for you to like think and be creative. And then you need to block time to be able to do the actual meeting itself. Calendar blocking that out has given me the space to think about that. And it's really driven our business in a positive direction.
I think creativity is so undervalued. Like I spend time an hour. I mean, I'll block an hour and a half and just think through. I'll do research. I'll look on LinkedIn. I'll use some AI tools to look at what competitors are doing, and I'll just think about what's the direction of the business, what should we be highlighting. I think the creativity part of it, you've got to have vision. You have to have ideas. You have to have things that are interesting for you, because then you'll want to get involved, like marketing. Obviously, that's a fun thing. I like to do it as well. But then I think the part of it is, now that I've set the vision and I'm handing it off, the inspect what you expect, like making sure that they actually deliver and that you've got everything done. To me, it's also a very hard part. We use the whole project management software here, but it is hard to make sure that your vision becomes reality. And I think the more you work with them, the more they know what you mean. Like I speak, I don't know, gibberish sometimes. Like no one understands what I'm trying to say, but Macy, she's like, oh, she means this. You know, my people have learned what I'm trying to say because I don't say it the right way sometimes. But they get more comfortable with you. They work with you more. They know what you think before you even think it. I think there's a part of it in that relationship where there's a growing pain, probably the first 6 months, of having to really, I don't know, craft, tweak, augment, making sure that it really is the message you want them to use. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, the brakes come off. We can just go fast because everyone's speaking the same language. So I agree. Get that stuff sent out to somebody else. Delegate. Be the idea girl and then delegate it out, because I love to do graphic design, but I'm not nearly as good as our designer. I love to write content. That's the thing that I really enjoy writing. It's very therapeutic for me. So I want to write all the content. I want to write all the captions, the content, etc. But I have to give some of it away now. But I think we're getting closer to now being my voice or being my idea of what what good looks like. But it changes your business. Like, I mean, literally look at your site. It's like you could be in New York City. Like, it's so professionally done. It's really beautiful. The pictures are always so good. And I love what you said in the beginning about the event, where take the images at the event. We're all dressed up. We look great. Mm-hmm. Take the photo. And then they're all the same kind of consistent styles. You can use them year after year. Here we have, I mean, Adrian, we have libraries with thousands and thousands of pictures, thousands. But if you don't get that one that you really need, it's like having a shot list for things, having even in the practice, like, hey, we're going to do skin awareness month. Shoot these 4 different videos. Give me these kinds of images for the reels. You got to kind of have a plan, right? And know what you're going to do. So I just think there's something to what you've built with the marketing that's just really magical. But all in all, everything that you're doing is really magical. You guys have built a great business. I mean, obviously you've built it on your grit and determination. Your folks are growing, thriving. You have 2 locations. I don't know when your next move is, but are you going to move out of your 3 office areas soon and go to a bigger practice? Or are you going to stay there and just keep going to that location?
We definitely have our eye on building a brand new facility. So I am super excited. I just had a meeting 2 weeks ago with a landowner, and I have locked down some land, and we've come to a price that I, have been able to budget for and plan. And so we're hoping I'm putting this out there because this is hard for me to say out loud, because this was a dream, like way down the road. I definitely have been dreaming about something for a really long time, and I've been looking at some other spaces, but I was able to meet with someone that owns some ground here 2 weeks ago, and we were able to negotiate a price and lock down the specific acreage that I am going to be able to buy. And so this is literally week 2 of that journey, but I cannot wait for a new location. The earliest that we would be there would be the fall of 26. But of course, our everybody wants to make sure that we do our event at the new location next year. But I just am so grateful for all the help that I've had along the way, because this new facility and this new location is something that, I'll be honest, it was always the big dream, but I didn't think that it was going to become a reality. So I would definitely get emotional if I talked about it too much.
Well, we'll be offline to see you when you get it open. So make sure that we get to save the date whenever you're going to be opening it up. But it's the next step, right? It's the next thing that you're full, you're busy. I think you're very smart about making sure you don't overextend yourself. Like, I'm sure you've done a lot of homework to decide that this is the time to do it, and that this is the pennies all make sense for you. So I can't wait to see what you're going to open up. And I think doing it yourself, custom building what you want, is it's a different experience than having to go in and retrofit someone else's practice to make it your own. So congratulations on that. And we're going to see you at Aesthetic Next, I think, in a couple months. So you're coming to do a few things here with us, and we're thrilled. I think you're doing a lecture maybe with Bobby or Sarah on LEDR, AR. We're going to highlight some of the cool things that you're doing. And like I said, I just really feel like your journey has been one that we've all watched here with such excitement for you, and just watching you grow into all the things that we hope people will become when they start really getting in their business and getting into the nitty gritty. So you're our poster child, Adrian, for doing everything the right way and really getting involved in the numbers and learning the practice business side, even if you don't want to, but learning it enough that you can be successful and to bring on a practice manager. So congratulations on all your success. As we kind of sign off here, any last words for our audience? Any good pieces of advice before we go?
Well, first of all, just thank you very much. And I can tell you that it would not all be possible without the help of everyone at Aesthetic Records. So that has just been amazing. And I think just for everybody out there, dream big, and you have to just make intentional steps every single day to make them happen. It feels like so much in the beginning, but if you just do one tiny little thing every single day and you surround yourself with people who are experts in the industry to help you, And they're good people, you know, that you can trust and you can talk to. And don't be afraid to learn new things and to grow. That's a whole part of it. Is just, it's a journey. It's, you know, not everything's going to be successful, and that's okay. But just being okay to continue to evolve and to grow, and just genuinely like be who you are. Be who you are, and your vibe's going to attract your tribe. So thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you. And you got an awesome tribe. We're glad to be part of your tribe as well. So I will see all the rest of you guys next week for another episode of For the Record. Bye, Adrian. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to another episode of For the Record. This podcast is not intended to provide legal or medical advice. It's for entertainment, education, and information purposes only. For more information on this week's guest or to get started with Aesthetic Record, email us at info@aestheticrecord.com. Be sure to tune in next week for more fresh perspectives on disrupting the status quo and surviving in the aesthetics industry.